Fant4Stic 2015 is the most miserable superhero movie I've ever seen. It is the movie equivalent of being stuck in the backseat of the car while your parents argue. It is uncomfortable, you can't do anything without making it worse, and you can't go anywhere, so you just have to wait until it's over. It also has such an overwhelmingly negative aura about it, it's honestly just hard to watch, and considering all the production issues surrounding the movie, it makes a lot more sense. You see, Fant4Stic 2015 had every single nightmare issue you could think of, from the slashed budget, the reshoots causing friction between the production crew and the director, never agreeing on a final script or overall tone of the movie, and Joshua Trank, who actively hates the often silly, campy nature of superheroes in general, all of which contributed to the end product, which mostly just leaves audiences scratching their heads thinking, what the hell did I just watch? With all this in mind, let's break down why Fant4Stic 2015 is easily the worst Fantastic Four movie and one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Number 1. A miserable slog. From the moment this movie starts, it just radiates misery, production-wise and story-wise, and I'm not kidding because it takes, count it, 3 minutes and 20 seconds to take apart the iconic catchphrase of the Thing and instead turn it into a reminder of generational trauma.
Hey, clobbering time. Come here, what'd you think? You think you'd talk to me like that?
Wow, nothing like some childhood trauma to sell Thing toys. The kids will just love it. Not only that, but from a production standpoint, it reeks of laziness and depression. Like the movie was screaming, let's just get this over with as soon as possible. I don't want to spend another moment on this set. For one, the color palette of this movie is just a combination of desaturated grays, browns, and more grays. I'd expect this from an average episode of Law & Order SVU, not a movie where a guy can stretch any part of his body and a giant rock monster man smashes stuff.
Why?
And as a result, just about every scene carries no energy whatsoever, and in fact sucks away any joy this movie could possibly have, and even when they get their powers, it still just feels off. There is also not a single interesting set piece or location throughout this movie's runtime, because in a movie where the main characters are supposed to be scientists and space explorers breaking the boundaries of our natural world, nothing gets people more excited than a laboratory, a boardroom, another laboratory, another boardroom, an interrogation room, a kitchen also being used as a boardroom, and guess what? Another boardroom. No joke, we literally spend more time in boardroom meetings discussing the movie than actually doing anything in the movie at all, and I counted, and we had a total of 4 boardroom meeting scenes. 5, if you include the room the audience is watching this in, which also technically does become a boardroom. Boo! If the objective was to become a sleep aid to knock out the audience due to sheer lack of anything, then the movie certainly succeeded. Not to mention the mistakes in this movie. There's a scene where Reed sees Victor and asks, "Who's that?" and the camera is supposed to cut to Victor, but it's framed in such a way you can't see who he is referencing, and the audience has to play a game of Where's Waldo to figure out who in the world he's talking about. In fact, let's do it right now. Where's Victor? Is he here? No. Is he this guy? No. Oh, there he is. There's Victor. Like, who the hell approved this in the editing room? It would just be so easy to have Victor in the center frame, but now we just have to play this game to even have a competent film. I also found this scene funny where Ben goes to retrieve Reed so he can come back and fix the time machine or whatever, and he knocks him out, and the sound design is also off.
That we can agree on.
What the hell? That doesn't sound right. I'm pretty sure the Thing is supposed to hit with the force of a mountain, but it sounds like he's tapping a coconut. Let's see if we can't fix that. Nope. No, that ain't it either.
Bonk!
Almost. I think we're getting somewhere.
Pow, right in the kisser.
Alright, that's close enough. Drop it. The movie is just littered with these kinds of mistakes, and the story isn't much better either. Like, alright, it's the basic premise of a Fantastic Four origin movie of, we need your help to conduct an experiment, and it's up to the group to all work together to break the boundaries between worlds and teleport us to a new dimension, and to their credit, they do succeed. But oh no! Plot twist. When they do invent interdimensional travel, the suits tell them they'll bring in a team of astronauts to go explore the new world, and this upsets our heroes because they believe only the people who first set foot on the new world will get their names in the history books. First of all, that's not true, because while yes, the people who landed on the moon get the majority of their recognition, there's still a storied history of all the people who helped achieve the moon landing. And second of all, the quote-unquote bad guy's concern here is actually valid, because if something goes wrong, which it does, you don't want the only people in the world who know how the machine works to be stuck in another dimension. And if it wasn't for Sue being left behind during the trip, the other guys would have died or mutated horrifically alongside Victor, and the movie would have been over a lot sooner.
Victor!
On that note, if you thought your pain would be swiftly ended, think again, because it takes 45 minutes to get to the inciting incident where the Fantastic Four get their powers. By comparison, the Fantastic Four movie from 2005's inciting incident happened in the first 15 minutes. So again, more time talking about the potential dangers than actually showing the dangers. And I honestly wouldn't mind the long build-up if the science stuff the movie presented was actually interesting and their cast had actual chemistry to really show the closeness before the tragedy, but since both of those parts are a dud, all it really serves to do is grind the movie's pacing down to a halt. All I'm saying is, any time is a good time to use the restroom when you're watching this movie, because nothing happens for so long, you're really not missing anything at all. And you're not gonna believe this, but the new land they explore is also really, really boring. Man, they even somehow managed to suck the fun out of space exploration by making the new planet they find filled with nothing but flat plains and jagged rocks. Truly inspiring set design here, guys. Like, a huge part of the sci-fi genre is that it's supposed to show the audience a world filled with better and cooler circumstances than our current world, but by having the new Earth they explore be so bland, it's basically saying, hey kid, welcome to the real world. No dreaming allowed. We've only got grit and realism here. It just sucks and really highlights the fact that there's nothing fantastic to be found in this movie. On the whole, the misery never stops, because even when they do get their powers, the movie's just a huge buzzkill and won't let anybody have any fun at all. Number 2. Taking the super out of superheroes. Yeah, you know what? Take heroes out of it too. This sucks. Remember the wonder and excitement of watching superhero movies as a kid when the protagonist gets their powers and starts performing out of this world feats? Then afterward, you would imagine how cool it would be to get powers like that too. Like, oh my god, I'm a superhero. I can fly. I can be super strong. I can shoot sticky webs out of my orifices alone in my room. It's a dream come true.
I'm a superhero! I'm a motherfucking super...
Well, rest assured, dear viewer, because Fant4Stic has absolutely none of that, and in fact seems to loathe that their source material is based on a comic book. You see, the director, Joshua Trank, just has a different core philosophy in regards to how superheroes should be portrayed, and he showed off this philosophy in his previous superhero movie, Chronicle, a found footage film about 3 teens that get superpowers and consequently suffer and tear each other apart. It's gritty, it's emotional, and far different from what we would consider a superhero movie, because despite the protagonists having superpowers, I wouldn't consider them superheroes per se. They're more like ordinary people having to deal with godlike powers and how it could change them drastically and in such a short period of time. And despite being kind of an Akira knockoff, it was still a box office and critical success, and brought Joshua Trank his initial rush of studios knocking on his door to direct their projects.
Leave me alone!
But again, his style simply doesn't work for something as, dare I say it, fantastical as the Fantastic Four, because the Fantastic Four and Marvel movies in general embrace the inherently cheesy nature of being a superhero and flying around in bright spandex, even when it can get too campy for its own good. Instead, the movie portrays having superpowers as the most painful curse a human could possibly get by showing off a much more graphic depiction of the Fantastic Four being mutated and transformed to activate their powers. It legit borders on actual sci-fi horror. Like, just imagine you're a kid and your parents take you to see a new superhero movie in town, and instead of getting a really cool and exciting adventure, you get boring boardroom meetings combined with pretty graphic body horror. Like, Johnny screams in pain as he is ignited, Ben is horribly fused and trapped in rock, Reed shows off some real body horror by having a stretchy form on display and experimented on, and poor Sue has her hair constantly fluctuate in color and shape every scene. There's also very little superhero action, if at all, because again, they're showing the action on a TV screen in, you guessed it, a boardroom. I think in total we get all of 2 scenes involving their powers, once when we get a 1 year later montage of everybody learning how to use their powers, and again, only during the climax. And speaking of the climax, you know, the most exciting part of the movie where everything comes together and everything built up gets paid off? Yeah, it's still boring as shit. So Victor comes back after spending the majority of the movie out of commission, and now he's fused together with his suit and became a techno-organic being hell-bent on destroying the world. Again, Victor's return is supposed to be the standard villain fight in the third act we've come to expect out of superhero movies, but it mostly just feels like an afterthought, like the writers just remembered, oh yeah, that's right, we're supposed to be a superhero movie and have action, not just drama and people talking about the potential action. However, I will say it leads to the only good scene in this entire movie where he goes on a rampage and just starts popping dudes' heads. Like, wow, something's actually happening. Unbelievable. It's cool, but only really serves to wake up the already asleep audience, but hey, at least something exciting happened in this movie. And now, it's up to the mediocre four to team up and beat Victor as he opens a portal. Oh gee, I wonder where that came from, to transfer Earth 1 to Earth 0 and destroy the planet. And again, it's supposed to be super exciting but just ends up being a bore because it takes place exclusively in the alternate dimension with absolutely nothing interesting in it. Another mistake that could have easily been fixed. Like, instead of having Victor bring Earth 1 into Earth 0 and having it take place in a world with nothing in it, just flip the premise and instead have Victor open the portal on Earth to bring the boring planet here. That way we have the mediocre four go and save people and minimize damage while also having to stop Victor at the same time. Like maybe Sue uses her barriers to stop falling debris and Reed stretches to pull a civilian out of danger while Johnny and the Thing team up to distract Victor. It would have been a much more engaging fight while also showcasing how well the mediocre four have mastered their powers and can actually work together as a team. But nope, all they really do is rally together once, and then despite having the home field advantage and the ability to pop people's heads instantly, Victor, because I'm still not calling him Dr. Doom, for some reason gets beaten by a single punch from the Thing.
Alright, it's clobbering time! Pow, right in the kisser.
And a minor nitpick here, but they dropped the invisibility way too early, so Victor still could have reacted and buried him in rocks like he literally did 5 minutes ago. But hey, heroes gotta win, and I want this movie to end as soon as possible. The whole finale is just so boring and by the books, it barely serves to excite anybody. So everything we've covered concerning the super aspect is really bad in this movie, but the worst possible sin Fant4Stic commits is the fact that their super suits just straight up suck. At its core, a hero's suit is supposed to be almost as iconic as the hero themselves, and with just a single glance, tells the audience what their gimmick is. Let's take a look at Spider-Man, iconic suit, and tells you he's got spider-related powers. Superman, big giant S on the front, makes for an iconic suit, and tells you he's super, but also a symbol of hope. But here in Fant4Stic world, oh my god, not even the costumes are allowed to have fun in this movie. Like, what even is this design? There's nothing unique or interesting that screams, hey, we're a superhero team known as the Fantastic Four. It's just the most generic piece of armor slapped together to make it as realistic and gritty as possible to match the overall dark tone of the movie. Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Thing doesn't wear clothes in this movie, so he's kind of just out there, rock hard, with his whole rock hanging out. It just again reinforces the fact that this movie loathes anything closely related to a comic book, including bright and colorful outfits. But despite how much the movie hates being super, it's nothing compared to how much the movie hates its characters. Number 3. The family aspect. It goes without saying, but the Fantastic Four is Marvel's first family, and I would argue they are definitely the most cohesive unit when compared to other superhero teams in the Marvel Universe, given the Avengers are more akin to co-workers, and they split up like all the time, and the X-Men are more like dysfunctional runaways whose house explodes every other weekend. In the comics, Reed and Sue are married and have 2 children. Johnny is the brother to Sue, and Ben is the cool uncle. They also have no secret identities, as the Fantastic Four having superpowers is public knowledge, and they're celebrities in the Marvel Universe with an actual base of operations by living at the top of the Baxter Building. The reason why they have no secret identities is because the camaraderie between Ben and Reed goes deeper, as Ben is obviously the only one who can't hide the fact that he has superpowers, so Reed supports him by having all of their powers be the forefront of their everyday lives, so Ben doesn't feel alone. Overall, they are family, and families fight, they squabble, they have disagreements, but in the end, when the chips are down and the world is in danger, they work together. This movie, however, does not convey this aspect at all, as the cast feels more like college students working together to put their name in the history books, and while there is some level of connection here, it all feels surface level and simply doesn't feel like they're an actual family who would ride or die together. And in the scenes where everyone is grouped up and are supposed to act happy, everyone acts so stiff, like someone's just threatening them off camera to look like they're having a good time, otherwise somebody's gonna get hurt. Reed and Sue are also supposed to be the main love interests, but they hardly look like they can even tolerate each other, let alone love each other. The closest we get to any sort of family is a relationship between Sue, Johnny, and their father, and even then it feels underdeveloped. Like, here's the obligatory family tragedy that's supposed to shape their journey as superheroes we've seen a million times before. There's also the part where they get their powers and it's all super messed up and Reed escapes, promising Ben he'll come back and find a way to save all of them, but cut to a year later and apparently he just wants to be left alone, even though he's literally the only person in the world who would know how to solve this issue.
I'm no good to you, to anyone. This is all my fault.
Nice going, Reed, you dick. And look, they don't even form up as the mediocre four with all their powers combined up until the last 20 minutes of the movie during the fight against Victor. They try to fix it by tossing up the most cliche line ever, but it only reinforces the point they forgot. Oh, that's right, we're supposed to make a superhero movie about individuals who are stronger together and totally don't hate each other or anything.
We can't beat him. He's stronger than any of us.
Yeah, he is. But he's not stronger than all of us.
Now, to really illustrate how poorly the family dynamic is executed in this movie, let's just look nowhere else but the gold standard, The Incredibles, an animated movie from 2004 and at the time of this recording is still somehow the best Fantastic Four movie. Their family dynamic is a core part of their superhero identity, and the movie executes it flawlessly. They're matching in iconic suits. Fire, the way they have interesting character interactions and function like a believable family. Fire, the way they all work together to combine their powers. In Jack's case, literally fire. Just goes to show that a movie that came out 11 years before Fant4Stic still has a better understanding of the family dynamic and is actually fun to watch. So Fant4Stic just sucks, and with how little the movie cared about making the characters feel for each other, it leaves the audience not caring for any of the characters at all. And finally, number 4, Doctor Doom. If they took the super out of the superheroes, they did my man Doctor Doom dirty by taking the super out of the supervillain. And this is the same issue in all of the Fantastic Four movies, as none of them have properly portrayed how big of a threat Doctor Doom can actually be. This is the guy that has defeated the Fantastic Four on multiple occasions, ripped out Thanos' spine and turned him to dust like he was nothing, and, when asked by a god to admit Reed Richards is smarter than him, he simply laughed and walked away, and the god accepted it as a valid answer. When done right, Doctor Doom is him, and is not just a threat to the Fantastic Four, but the whole multiverse. In this movie, though, he's nothing but a generic bad guy and a cheap Doom wannabe, not even worthy of being called a Doombot. Like, look at his base design for this movie. Nothing about it screams, I am Doctor Doom, ruler of Latveria, and I am a world-ending threat. It's just so generic, he looks like he could fit in basically any sci-fi movie as a techno-organic being. In fact, I know exactly what this design reminds me of. He's not Doctor Doom. He's the frickin' alien from Annihilation! He's also woefully underdeveloped and feels more like an afterthought, like he's introduced as a brilliant but troubled youth with a distrust for the government and authority in general in the beginning, disappears for a majority of the movie after the Earth Zero incident, and then just rolls up in the finale expecting the audience to really care at this point. And speaking of the finale, Doctor Doom is one of the most brilliant minds in the Marvel Universe, able to match wits and at times outmaneuver even Reed Richards, as seen when he's able to save Sue Storm from dying during childbirth, something Reed himself could not figure out a solution to. And, of course, in typical Doom fashion, all he asks for in return is that they name their child Valeria, a constant reminder and celebration to Reed's inadequacies. Doctor Doom is also a master of magic, said to be powerful enough to rival other magic users in the Marvel Universe like Doctor Strange. So with his feats in mind, you'd think he'd do something creative or visually spectacular when confronted with his mortal enemies in the mediocre Four. Well, unfortunately, you'd be wrong, because this movie's Victor throws rocks. Rocks. More rocks. And a pull. Yep, that's about as exciting as it gets for Victor's power set. Just moving a bunch of rocks. So now, we not only have a mediocre superhero team, but also a half-baked villain on top of this mounting dung heap of a movie. But with his defeat, there is at least one memorable moment of this entire movie. The moment you have all been waiting for. When all is said and done and the mediocre Four at least partially save the day, we get a boardroom meeting.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Nah, but really.
It's fantastic.
Say that again?
The writers really thought this movie was going to kickstart a whole new franchise when all it did was bore everyone and bomb at the box office. And one final note to leave you all out on, just a day before the movie's premiere, Joshua Trank tweeted out his regrets for the movie saying, and I quote, "A year ago, I had a fantastic version of this, and it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it. That's reality though, and if that doesn't describe this hot mess of a movie, then I don't know what will." So with everything wrapped up in a neat 4-part bow, the final score for Fant4Stic 2015 is a terrible 2 out of 10. It's not good, that's for sure. It's bad, but it's not funny you can laugh at it kind of bad. No, really, its worst sin is that it's just dreadfully boring and forgettable. But, looking to the future, with the upcoming Fantastic Four First Steps movie coming out soon, here's another chance to break through the streak of bad Fantastic Four movies and finally have a movie we can truly call fantastic.
Say that again?
Well, that just about does it. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and I will see you all next time.